What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I have a super exciting duel for you guys between myself on Exosister and my opponent, who is at 1130 rating, on the Tearalament strategy. And yeah, this is a game that's super exciting because obviously we are about to be heading into Power of the Elements format, and Exosister is a deck that I am really looking forward to playing. And there's going to be a lot of Tearalaments, there's going to be a lot of Sprite, so just testing new format stuff. And this is one of my first games in the new format, so I had to read a couple of the cards and really get, acquainted with these effects and how the format sort of plays differently. But yeah, so before we get into this game, I do want to let you guys know, Discord link down below along with all of our other social media links. I'm also trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you like this Yu-Gi-Oh content, feel free to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. It really helps me out in what I do here on the channel. Getting on into this game, again, we're all super excited for Power of the Elements, or we're dreading it, and this is just sort of like one of my first matches in it, so let's see how this goes. So rock, paper, scissors. I did lose the rock, paper, scissors and went second, so that is unfortunate. Opening hands, Pot of Prosperity, Vadis, Ash Blossom, Vadis, Called by the Grave. So this is not a great hand. I mean, double Vadis in our opening is kind of weird, especially go second. We have Ash, which is okay, but overall not like anything too great. Our opponent opens Lava Golem, very interesting main deck choice. I don't know if this is something Tearalaments are like doing. I definitely don't think it is, but I don't remember a lot of the lists from early Tearalaments before the Yugioh stuff, so I don't know if Lava Golem was a pick, but I get it. You can make things with it, and it's a good board breaker, so interesting. Polymerization, Tearalament's Mayru, Rhino Heart, and Halfinus. So his hand looks pretty good. I mean, he opened 3 names and a poly. That looks pretty good. I'm wondering if he's playing Lava Golem specifically for something in his extra deck. That could be interesting. If he's on some sort of extra deck spice that Lava Golem specifically is really good to go into, that'll be interesting if it comes up. So going into the games, of course we are going second. Our opponent starts off with the Rhino Heart, and I'm going to Ash Blossom. I know it really only gets punished by Halfinus, which he has, and Polymerization, which he also has. So I'm definitely going to get punished here, but I was going to see if that could end his turn. It does not. Our opponent activates the poly, sending Mayru and the Rhino Heart, I'm assuming, yes, into Kit Kalos. Now, this is one of the craziest cards for the Tearalament deck because she has an effect that mills 5, and eventually once we get the Yugioh support, there's a bunch of effects that'll do that, and it's absolutely insane, but this is one of the best cards in the deck, at least starting out for sure. So he's going to activate Kit Kalos. I guess he doesn't want to activate either of these because, it would just make another one of these, so it makes sense. He's going to add the trap's meta noise, or just the trap meta noise, and this is like a Book of Moon that also sends a Tearalament, so it's pretty good. And then he's going to go ahead, Kit Kalos effect. I ask if I can read the trap. Again, one of my first games against Tearalament specifically, and one of my first new format games in general. So he's going to activate Kit Kalos, bring back Mayru, and then he's going to activate Mayru as Chainlink 1 and Kit Kalos as Chainlink 2. So he's going to mill 8 cards, which sounds insane. He's going to mill Fusion Deployment. Let's pull up the grave here. DD Crow. He's going to mill Prosperity, the Field Spell, King of the Swamp, Mayru, and a Prosperity, and another Mayru. So definitely not like the best mills here. Not terrible. I mean, he gets to proc one of the effects, so that works out for him. But definitely could have been a lot more powerful than what he milled. So he's going to send Kit Kalos and the Mayru to make a Dragostapelia. Interestingly enough, I thought he would go for the Rhino Heart with this, but, I'm still learning the deck. He might still be learning the deck. We're all still learning Power of the Elements format. So if there's a couple of misplays you see, feel free to leave them down below. But again, we're all learning. There's going to be quite a few misplays in the early stages before we head into Power of the Elements. But yeah, I will try to point those out the best I can. So he's going to make Dragostapelia, set Meta Noise, and pass. It passes to me, and I draw Stella, which is at least an Exosister monster. It makes me feel a little better about my Prosperity. But we're going to go ahead and Prosperity banish 3, because I just need to see any Exosister name, essentially, and it'll work. So I mill Pax, Ellis, and Imperm. I'm going to grab the Pax, because I want to grab Malfa, so it makes more sense than grabbing Ellis, even though I could gain 800 by special summoning Ellis. It's not a big deal. So we're going to go ahead and activate the Pax to search Malfa from our deck, which is definitely the best card in Exosister's arsenal at this point. This card is so insane. It's definitely what puts Exosister on the map. Yeah, this card is so good when it resolves. So I'm going to go ahead and activate Malfa. which is going to allow me, or our opponent's going to chain Halfinus. That makes sense. So our opponent's going to mill 3 and special summon, and then chain resolves us as chain link 1. Malpha's going to summon, and I'm going to tell him I'm resolving the chain before he goes and activates effects, and we're going to special Ellis. And then our opponent on a new chain is going to activate Halfinus, and I believe I called by the grave that. Yes, I do. Just to make sure he doesn't, do anything from graveyard. I don't want him making Rhino Heart here. I know I'll get both of my Exosister effects to proc if he does fusion summon, but in this situation, I really did not want to essentially have Rhino Heart come on the board for free. And with the call by the grave, I'm still able to activate my Malpha as chain link 1 on a new chain, because a card, where is it? Where's the effect? If a card is moved out of either graveyard. So I did move a card with called by the grave, so we're able to use her effect, to which our opponent chains Dragostapelia, which I think there's a slight misplay coming up here now that I'm thinking about it. And our opponent is going to Book of Moon the Meta Noise. Or he's going to use Meta Noise to Book of Moon my Ellis, excuse me. So he's going to set, and then he's going to activate the Shaylin effect. Shaylin go back into the deck along with Rhino Heart and Meru. And he's going to summon, special summon the Kaleido Heart, sending back the Malpha. I'm still getting used to saying some of these names. They're like brand new cards, so we're gonna get better at that as time goes on. So he's gonna send back the Malpha. So, okay, the misplay didn't come up. I thought I was gonna forget that Dragostapelia actually makes my stuff level 1, which is actually so good into the Exosister match. Like, Dragostapelia ends up being one of the better monsters against Exosister, just for the level modulation that Predaplant counters have. So I'm gonna normal summon Estella, set my 2 Vadis, and pass turn. Nothing super impressive. But I feel like, if he goes in the graveyard, Stella's good here, but he's actually just gonna Lava Golem me, which I was like, why is there a Lava Golem? Why is this in your main deck? Again, I don't know if that's something they were doing, or if he has something in his extra deck it's used for, but I was confused for sure. He's gonna switch everything to attack and go battle phase, so honestly, like, I think summoning the Lava Golem, he just wanted to use it, I guess, because I think he would have gotten more damage and saved his Kaleido Heart if he didn't do this. So it was really, really weird play, but I think he just wanted to use the Lava Golem for whatever reason. He's going to swing with Dragostapelia. I have a choice here. I can either eat this damage, which is going to be 5,100, or I can pay 8 to block 2 attacks, but then lose a Vadis. And overall, I'm going to decide that I'd rather save Vadis, because I want to have a play on my turn and his turn. If I end up needing both Vadis, it could be very nice. But he's not going to do anything for the rest of this turn, so, like, we get one on our turn and his follow-up turn, but the problem is I'm so low on life points, which could come up to be very, very bad. So starting the turn off, I'm going to go ahead and activate Vadis, special summon 2 Exosister monsters from deck. I'm going to activate, I'm going to special summon Irene and Sophia, to which he says good, and he actually waits until I activate Sophia to draw before using Dragostapelia, which I think is really weird. I think, like, you'd want to do that on res to make one of my cards, like, you'd hit Sophia on res so that I can't just overlay if that's my line and I'm trying to play around Dragostapelia. In this case, I actually just forgot about the level modulation, so, it worked where he could negate the draw there too, but it's not a big deal because I have Prosperity, and now I have to use Prosperity to see another Exosister name because that thing is level 1 and I cannot use it to make a rank 4 Xyz. So we are going to find Malpha and Sophia here. I'm just going to save a Malpha in deck because I can't special summon her anyways, so she'd just be as good as normal summoning as Sophia. I'm going to go ahead and normal summon her and make a rank 4. Going into Michaelis. Michaelis effect, detach to add an Exosister spell or trap. And here's where the problem is. I grab Latanya. It doesn't really matter which one I grab because they all pretty much pay 800. But now I'm at 1,300 life points, and Latanya and Vadis both pay 8, which means I can't activate both, which is where this is becoming a little troublesome. Like, the life points could be our demise in the end here. So I'm going to use Michaelis effect, banish Dragostapelia, swing at Halfinus, and then I'm going to set Latanya, and I'm going to pass turn. Well, of course, Sophia's going to get shuffled back in the end phase because of the previous Vadis. Our opponent draws Beast, which is pretty good. He's gonna summon the Rhino Heart and send a Halfinus from his deck, to which this baits out my Latanya pretty good. And I'm going to choose to banish this, and then this is gonna be sort of an issue. And this is where me not having this Vadis live is going to be terrible, because I go for Caspitel, which means monsters can't be special summoned from the graveyard, and I did that because I don't have any follow-up. So I need to make Caspitel, hope she sticks, and then I can use it to search a Malfa next turn. Now, replay isn't letting me see my deck, but potentially a better option was like going for something in defense because of the next play my opponent is going to make. And my opponent goes for Dark, and this means he's able to crash his Dark to find a play. So maybe it was better just to go for maybe Gabrine in defense mode, or I think she's the only one with a high enough defense, or to go for a Sophiel, which would stop any grave effects. Now, with a Sophiel, I would have no follow-up, which was my thought, but I at least could have made Zeus on the next turn if I didn't banish him off Prosperity, so that's just tough. Our opponent's going to add the Shaylin, activate her effect, and he just mills everything, and he's getting so many things going off at once that this is sort of my demise. In fact, I'm going to fast forward. As you guys can see, I can't activate my Vadis, and my opponent just has too much damage here, so he's going to activate Kit Kalos, search Salic. Kit Kalos effect to special from graveyard, but I tell him with Caspitel he can't special from grave. Doesn't really matter because he can just activate the field spell user effect to special from hand, get another fusion summon for Kaleido Heart, and the field spell go ahead and wipe my board, and I draw Stella and pass. So going into game 2, and I go first, and that is very nice because, you know, Exosister I think in general have a nicer time going first. They have a bunch of, like, their play lines aren't super aggressive, so they definitely favor going first as more of a control strategy, right? So opening hands, I have Pot of Prosperity, Irene, Stella, Sophia, and Imperm. Definitely a pretty okay hand. Our opponent has evenly matched Shaddoll Beast, King of the Swamp, Prosperity, King of the Swamp, so that's interesting. And I don't know if Tear normally plays Pot of Prosperity, but it's an interesting choice for sure. It's definitely a good card, but I don't know if it's like the best in this deck. Especially you see things like Shaddoll Beast. I mean, I guess you could say the same thing about Exosister, because Prosperity with Sophia conflict so often, it is kind of annoying, but I still feel like it's worth it. So starting off my turn, I'm going to normal summon Stella, activate her effect to special Sophia. So getting a little greedy here, going for the draw instead of just activating Prosperity. Like if anything happened to this play, I wouldn't be able to Prosperity and find an additional play, but I did want the extra draw. So I'm going to draw a Sophia, and we draw into Triple Tactics Talent, which is amazing because if they have a hand trap, we'd be able to draw 2 additional cards or steal a card. Of course, we look at our opponent's hand, and that's not going to come up, but that would be an amazing draw in like any other situation. A draw 1 into a draw 2 is fantastic. So we go Caspitel effect. Our opponent thinks I can only draw if I have Irene, but that's only the effect to gain 800 life points. Going Caspitel effect to search Malfa, and then Malfa effect to special summon Ellis from deck. And this is why like having Malfa as a monster in the deck is so good, because now instead of just going for Michaelis as your first turn, you can actually go for Caspitel and search Malfa if you didn't have it, and it's much easier to go for Magnifica now, which is huge. So Michaelis effect to add a Exosister spell or trap. I choose Vadis. I feel like especially against Tear it might be better than, or it will be higher impact than something like Latanya. And if they have like a back row hate card, I can just use Vadis to special 2 Exosisters and sort of like stop my opponent from doing anything. So we're gonna go ahead and take Michaelis and Caspitel into Magnifica, which is such an amazing monster. And this is actually one of my first times summoning it, because I've never gotten to summon it in real life because I haven't taken Exosister to an event since Magnifica has come out. So very cool. We make Magnifica, we set Vadis, we set Imperm, and we pass. Our opponent draws. There can be only one going second, so that is horrifying. Yeah, that's actually horrifying. He goes Battle Phase, and he's just going to go ahead and activate Evenly. I decide if I want to keep Vadis, but in the end, I'm going to choose to keep the Magnifica, which loses to a card like Raigeki or Dark Ruler or something like that. But, or even Imperm in this case, but I felt like saving Vadis loses to Ash, and then it also could just not be very good, so. Saving the Magnifica here. Our opponent's going to activate King of the Swamp, go ahead and add Polymerization, and then with the Polymerization he could do some cool stuff, but he's actually going to Prosperity. I think, you know, he could have made Actually, he can't make Window with King of the Swamp and Beast, right? So I guess there wasn't really anything for him to make there now that I'm thinking about it. He's going to Prosperity for 6, looking for any play. And he is going to find a Tearalament monster, which is huge, Meru. And I feel like she's sort of an RNG type, like, starter. She's not going to guarantee anything like Rhino Heart, but she could definitely mill good stuff, which is nice in her case. So, gonna resolve and mill 3, to which he mills a Halfinus and a Rhino Heart. So, gonna use the Halfinus effect engraved, which I say is good. I'm just technically deciding when I want to use this Magnifica effect, and I'm deciding to save it for essentially Kit Kalos, I'm pretty sure. So he's gonna put back 2 and make the Kit Kalos, which here is where I want to use my Magnifica. He's gonna go ahead and search a Tearalaments card. It's gonna be Meta Noise. And then I'm going to at res, or actually not at res. I'm going to wait for polymerization. I guess I was waiting for Kit Kalos' effect, so yeah, that makes sense. If he targeted Kit Kalos, she loses both effects, which is nice. Or actually, I think she'd still special summon, but this would at least not go to grave, which is what matters. So on the poly, I'm going to banish Kit Kalos, to which he has to fuse 3, and he is going to make the Guardian Chimera, which is really unfortunate for our opponent here because I think he just forgot how Pot of Prosperity works. He sent a Shadal Beast with the Fusion Summon and made Guardian Chimera, both which can't activate because he activated Pot of Prosperity. And our opponent's going to try to activate him, but he can't. He's going to try to activate Beast, but he can't, so I remind our opponent of that. And, you know, he's still going to activate the Meru Engrave, and I'm going to chain Magnifica to essentially take the Michaelis under her and overlay Michaelis on top of Magnifica. So now we have a banish, which is huge. A banish from grave or field. You know, honestly, a better play, I think, was chaining, like, or no, I guess that wasn't a better play now that I'm thinking, or no, yeah, maybe it was. Chaining to polymerization with Magnifica. Like, we Magnifica, target the Kit Kalos, and banish. Or, okay, 2 polymerization, let me think this out. 2 polymerization, we use her effect to return an Xyz monster and attach over it, and then we chain this banish effect to Magnifica. And this means we'd have Michaelis as he was activating Meru, and we can banish the Meru. So I think that was the better play for sure. I just didn't think about that in the moment, but I'm pretty sure that was the better play. Because he's going to send back Meru and the Guardian Chimera and make Dragostapelia, which is a threat for this deck, I must admit. He used his battle phase, so can't do anything there. And I'm in a position that's really rough. Like, I can't really deal with his Dragostapelia. Like, I could have at end phase tried to banish one of his cards because Michaelis was summoned, but he can just negate with Dragostapelia, so it just didn't matter. I'm going to attempt to use Michaelis here, to which he negates. And we're going to go ahead, activate Triple Tactics Talent to draw 2 cards. He says that's good, and we draw double Shadow Imprisoning. So Shadow Imprisoning is very nice in this matchup. Honestly, if you draw this card against Tearalament, you've probably won the game, unless they had a non-engine card that removes it. This card is so insane versus the Tearalament deck. Drawing 2 is kind of weird because we don't really have a play. We can't activate Prosperity. I could normal summon Irene, but there's not really much I can do here. Gonna go ahead and Dragostapelia swing over Michaelis, so he doesn't have a play either. And we draw Latania for turn, which is, like, fine because we have Irene here. We could pay 800 to banish Dragostapelia and then overlay over Irene, so it's definitely, like, a good card here. Not the best thing in the world. I would much rather it be Malfa, so I am gonna Prosperity for 6. And we are gonna find Malfa off of that, so definitely adding her to hand because she is just, like, the best card in our deck. Gonna go ahead and activate the Malfa effect to special summon, and our opponent is going to flip Tisibu. And the way this should work, since Malfa already activated, is she should try to resolve as much as possible. So she should special herself, and then Ellis just does not special summon herself from deck. I'm pretty sure that's how that works in this situation. Like, if he flipped this first, I can't even attempt to activate Malfa. But because Malfa was activated and he chained Tisibu, Malfa should summon, resolve as much as possible. She can't special Ellis, and we should be good right here. So from this point, since Malfa's on the board, I am just going to activate Called by the Grave and banish a card in his graveyard. I choose King of the Swamp. And then Malfa will actually activate, which is so good. Malfa is so insane. Gonna overlay Michaelis. Activate Michaelis effect. Didn't we already do that this turn? I think we did. I think we already used her effect this turn. Did we? Or was that? No, that was last turn because he swung over Michaelis and then we went back to our turn. Okay, yeah, we're good. We did not activate it this turn. All we did was Prosperity from Alpha. So we're going to add another Latanya because there's no reason for me to add Vadis under TC Boo. I know I'm going to banish the Dragos Stepelia here because I have Shadow Imprisoning, right? Which I guess maybe banishing the TC Boo is better because I know I have Shadow Imprisoning. I know I have Latanya, but I really thought like banishing him there, putting on pressure, and then having Latanya for his play was better. So I'm going to normal summon the Irene and go ahead and set Latanya, which I guess normal summoning Irene is fine because I can banish the TC Boo and then overlay, so that'll work out. But our opponent is going to scoop there and going on to game 3 with Exosister going second, probably. Let's see. Yes, I am going second. And I have not opened D-Shifter any of these games, so hoping for it, and we do not open the Dimension Shifter. It is like one of Exosister's blowouts, so you really want to draw it as much as a Fluandereeze player normally would, but not seeing it for us here. Opening hands, game 3, I have Malfa. Shadow Imprisoning, I kept this in going second, just in case I can break his board and then flip this card. I mean, it's just like game, so I think this card's insane, so I just wanted to keep it in. Red Reboot, Irene, and Ellis. And our opponent opens up Halfinus, Meta Noise, Lava Golem, Triple Tactics Talent, and Meru. Again with the Lava Golem. I'm not quite sure why this card is in this deck. I was really hoping to see why it's in here. Maybe it's just a good board break card, but I wonder why he's maining it. It's very strange. So either way, a good hand from our opponent. They're going to start off with a Meru, and he needs this to resolve, otherwise he has no starters. So I said good hand, but it's definitely an RNG dependent hand now that I'm looking at it. Because Halfinus, you know, she's not doing anything on her own unless I hand trap, and Meru has to hit something, so that's very interesting. But the Meru does hit another copy of herself and a King of the Swamp, so I'm going to go ahead and shuffle those back to make Kit Kalos. And we know Kit Kalos is a very insane card. Again, we don't have a D-Shifter here, so we're just going to go ahead and see him dump the Shaylin. And Shaylin effect is going to send back herself and the King of the Swamp. And King of the Swamp is going to act as Relinquished here, and he's going to make a Millennium Eyes Restrict. So this is a very powerful card, but I am opening hand trap, so it's not like super amazing. It's not going to do much against Exosister. In fact, I think overall, you know, I'm realizing something here, so I definitely want to talk about that going into his next turn. He sets Meta Noise and passes. So I draw D-Shifter, right? And I go to standby phase, and I'm like, it's a use it or lose it. I'm going to put a monster in graveyard, and then I won't be able to use D-Shifter anyway, so I might as well use it, even though Millennium Eyes Restrict is probably going to take it. What I wasn't thinking about, which is really good here, is actually going main phase, special summoning Malfa, special summoning Ellis, and then using D-Shifter, because if he Millennium Eyes Restricts takes the D-Shifter, both of my Exosister effects will proc. So that was something I should have thought about, and that would have been amazing now that I'm looking back on the game. But either way, we're going to continue on. We're going to special summon Malfa, to which our opponent chains Halfinus. We've seen this before. Halfinus is going to go ahead, special summon and mill. I'm going to go ahead and special my cards as we're sitting here. He's going to mill Salic and Halfinus, so that works out. That is a play. Going to use Salic effect and Gravis Chainlink 1, Halfinus effect Chainlink 2. That's pretty nice. He's going to add the Rhino Heart. Add one tier. Okay, I thought this was the one that added back from Grave. So, no, overall, that was really good for our opponent here. Halfinus is going to send back Halfinus itself and the Rhino Heart in hand to make Kaleido Heart. And Kaleido Heart's going to get a banish here, but actually, I'm turn player, so it's actually Chainlink 1, Malfa, Chainlink 2, Ellis, because he moved a card from his graveyard, and then Chainlink 3, Kaleido Heart. So I shuffle that back and then overlay, and then our opponent's like, wait, think Chainlink 4, so I guess they just didn't realize what was going to happen here. Either way, I do, you know, go back and let him activate a Chainlink 4. In this case, it was going to be Meta Noise, but we do have Red Reboot, pretty much the only Go Second card we saw, so fortunate for us that we have a Go Second card in Reboot. Definitely going to help us by putting that face down, so Chain resolves, I get my Michaelis, and he sets another Salic from his deck. To which I ask if I can read the traps, because, again, not very familiar with the Tearalament matchup. Gonna go ahead and use Michaelis effect, detach to search for a Exosister spell or trap, and it's gonna be Carpe Diem. And Carpe Diem is awesome because, well, one, it's like a prohibition card, which is cool, but I just gave him 2 free traps that I really want to destroy, and this card destroys back row. When an Exosister or an attack is declared involving your Exosister monster, you can target one spell or trap your opponent controls, destroy it. That's not once per turn, I do not believe. Or it is once per turn. I think we're about to have an oopsie, but that's fine. Again, getting to know the cards back again. So we're gonna null summon Irene, special Ellis, activate Carpe Diem. Gonna go ahead and overlay for Caspitel, which is gonna allow us to get some follow-up. We're gonna call Nibiru. Like, he was gonna be able to activate it even if he had it, but I guess just force him to have it at this point. There's nothing else I really wanted to call. Like, I could call Ash Blossom, but he would have used it on Michaela, so he didn't have that. But yeah, I just call Nib. Caspitel, search Malfa for some follow-up. I'm gonna go ahead, Michaela's effect to banish the Kaleido Heart, overlay both of our monsters for Magnifica, and then we are going to go battle phase, swing at the Millenniumize Restrict, Carpe Diem, pop one of his back rows, which we're gonna make the meta noise because it adds back from graveyard to hand, which he does not have, so that's the one I definitely want to pop. And then we're gonna swing over this, and we're gonna use Carpe Diem to pop again, and both me and my opponent do not catch it once per turn. In this case, Salic is gonna get to add, which, didn't that already add? Okay, but he also activated Salic this turn already. So we were both activating once per turn effects twice in one turn. So both of us, you know, a misplay for a misplay, fair enough. In this case, I normally wouldn't be able to pop that, and he wouldn't have Rhino Heart in hand. So it was actually better for us if we didn't pop it. So my misplay actually hurt me, and his misplay helped him a lot. So, you know, it is what it is. But we make Magnifica. Our opponent drew Halfinus, which is pretty cool. Rhino Heart is going to go ahead and send a Tearalament monster. It's going to activate its effect, to which I reveal Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Again, this is why I kept it in game 3, for a situation exactly like this. And our opponent's just going to scoop. I mean, Shadow Imprisoning is game ending against this deck if they do not happen out. So in the end, the misplays did not matter at all, but they were there, so important to go, know going forward. But yeah, this is sort of like one of the first, definitely the first match on my channel of the new format, so I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Tell me what you thought of the duel. You know, any misplays you saw, again, leave them in the comments below. I'll be sure to look at them. Again, new format, getting used to saying the names, getting used to commentating over it, getting used to like playing the format. But with all that being said, hope you had a good time watching the video. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.